Hello and welcome to Blades of Glory, the podcast, episode 2, Mindset Matters. I'm Tanny Deep, owner of Swaybrows Microblading Academy and Studio here in Los Angeles, California. I'm a Grandmaster Trainer for Beauty Angels Academy and co-owner of Blades of Glory Shop.
And I'm Amanda Brewer. I'm owner and founder of Eastside Microblading in Bellevue, Washington, and now Scottsdale, Arizona. Grandmaster Trainer for Beauty Angels Academy and on the board of directors for the American Academy of Micropigmentation. And today I'm so excited to talk about how mindset matters because, girl, it freaking matters, doesn't it?
Ooh, yes.
Okay. I think this is an important topic because it's easy to listen to a YouTube video about it or read a book about it, but to actually implement it in your daily life is a whole nother thing. So we're going to talk about some stuff, maybe get a little deep. What do you say, Tanny? Deep?
I mean, Deep is my last name, so we're going there.
Yeah. So let's start out with how to manage your mind in difficult situations. And I'm sure that anyone listening, we've all been through a situation that was probably difficult. And your mindset really dictated how it went. So Tanny, lay on a situation where like you were managing your mind in a really difficult situation. Maybe it went really bad, or maybe it was a really good story.
We go through so many difficult situations on a daily basis. There's so much coming at us from all angles, whether it's social media, whether it's things on the news, like the state of the current events right now is just crazy. But then you also have a lot of interaction day to day with clients. And then I have staff that I'm working with, and then there's students. And some of these people are going to really test your patience, or really, really test your patience. But in those dire moments, like I used to be very explosive, like growing up,
What do you mean by explosive?
Like I want to say I was always reacting instead of responding. And what that means is like, if something pissed me off, I was like, blah,
like short-tempered.
I couldn't control myself. And I didn't take the time to like assess what was going on and actually respond. And I think my dad was very short-tempered, and I was around that growing up, so I kind of picked that up from him. But over time, you learn to manage your mind.
Yeah.
And so I've had difficult situations, and one comes to mind where I had a client. She was very sweet, but if something didn't go her way, she was very sour. She was like Sour Patch Kid.
Sweet and sour.
And so I remember I did her brows, and she was kind of pushy from the beginning. And I could tell because just trying to get an appointment with me, she wrote like a really long text message, first about how she admires my work, but then like how much she needed to get her brows done, and how much like, okay, I really need to see her right away because she has this, and this happening. So red flag, right?
Yeah.
Immediately I could feel it in my gut. I'm like, oh, she might be a difficult one. But you know what? At the time I was new, and I had a new studio, and I wasn't fully booked. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take her. I'm going to do my best to try to manage the situation, and hopefully she works out. But so I did her brows. She was super nice the whole time. But you could tell she was like very picky. She had the mirror up the whole time, and she was like nitpicking about like every single hair, and like, oh, this is 1 millimeter higher than the other. And I could sense it, but I tried my best to just be as patient as I could, be as kind as I could, and just, try to deliver what she was expecting. But I came soon to realize that she was just one of those clients that was never going to be satisfied.
Yeah.
That, obsesses over herself, and like what she was pointing out all her different flaws while we were going through the situation too. And she was doing Botox and lips and all those things. And those sometimes can be the hardest clients to manage because they have to work through certain things for themselves. So in the end, I did her brows. She was very happy with them, left happy, and went home. And I don't know, like, the brows start to get darker. They start to get bigger. They're going through the aftershock phase. And I don't know who she talked to on her way home and who she saw on her when she got home, but she sent me this long text message saying how much she like her brows were too thick and they were uneven, and like we never like agreed on this, and that they weren't even sisters, they weren't even twins, they weren't even neighbors.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah. And then she said like, she she was gonna come in and like force me to do a touch up for her. Like, even though I said, you know what, I'm sorry you feel this way. Like, you're going through the aftershock. And I told her the whole spiel. As artists, we know that too.
Yeah.
So, and I said, I cannot see you for another 6 to 8 weeks. But then she was adamant and she wanted to show up at my studio and like literally twist my arm to do the touch up for her.
Goodness grief. What a nightmare.
I know. And then I had to like,
Like stresses me out hearing it.
Oh my God.
Like my blood pressure is going up.
In that moment, like, again, I'm in these forums and a lot of times people post pictures of what to do in a situation like this.
Mhm.
And in that situation, anyone could have easily like maybe snapped on her or been really rude with her or like, you know what, I'm going to fire this client. But at the end of the day, okay, she's my client. She had an expectation. Somewhere along the way, she got a little lost and now she's not feeling good about it. And then I have to try to put out this fire in the most professional way possible.
Yeah.
So I had to really take some time to think about it, but I did, and I understanding, and this is like, there's a lot of psychology that goes into this too.
100%.
Oh, because I had to manage her mentality, knowing that she was the type of person to nitpick at herself like that. I stroked her ego. And I sent her, that's what she wanted. I sent her photos of her before and after. I complimented her. And in that moment, it's really hard for your ego not to be like,
It's tough.
So I responded to her, sent her pictures. I said, you know what, you look beautiful. I thought you looked great. Here's your before and after. Look how much, more youthful it made you look. And you're just going through this phase right now. I don't worry. We can fix whatever you'd like to fix. And if, we're still not happy after that touch up, then we'll talk about what to do after that. So she was like, in the end, she was happy. She was happy.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? I'm sorry. I trust you. I'll wait it out and see what happens. And then whatever. She comes to the touch up 6 to 8 weeks later. We fix the things that need to be fixed. Same situation. She goes home. And then like maybe a week later, like one hair was missing. And she like freaks out on me again. She sends me this long text message again, threatening me, saying that she,
Goodness
I
gracious.
told her it was going to last a year and it didn't even last a month. And now she's like freaking out. Now she needs to come in and see me again. And I need to do this. I need to fill in this one hair for her again. So me being the pleaser,
oh my gosh,
said, okay, you know what? Everyone's skin reacts a little bit differently to this. And we've done our best. Why don't you just come in? It's just a few hairs. Like I can fix this for you, but I still have to wait another 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So I did a second touch up for her. Again, walked out happy. And then like a couple weeks later, she started fading again. And you know what? At this time I said, now if this is happening, it might be like the pigment's not as compatible with your skin type. This is going to vary from person.
I'm like exhausted hearing this.
You know what I'm saying? And it was just
exhausting.
It was so much for me to manage and so much for me to have to step outside of like what I really wanted to say to her.
Yeah.
And
it's heavy.
It was so heavy. And in the end, like, so she wanted to come back for another touch up and I had to put my foot down in the most kindest way.
Yeah. What do you mean by like, what did you say?
I said to her, I explained to her that it could be her chemical composition. We've done the best that we could. We've accommodated her with a second touch up at this time. Like, the brows, they're not meant to stay perfect all the time. There are going to be parts of them that fade away depending on your lifestyle and your skin type and, your day to day. And I said, if you would like to come in for another touch up, now I will have to charge you like $150 fee for an additional touch up. She freaked the fuck out on me. Like, wow. Yeah, she freaked out. And she was like, she's like, I've had enough of your kindness and bullshit. And like, I just want my brows. And like, yeah, she like went off on me.
Dude, people are nasty.
Yeah. And then I said to her, you know what? If this doesn't work for you, I would kindly suggest that you find a different artist because I don't think this is healthy the way you're speaking to me. And I haven't had any clients speak to me in this way. And I just feel, very threatened. And
no kidding. I don't like how clients feel like if they bully you, you have to accommodate them. Like it's the whole, like the client is always right crap. Like I get that to some extent, but some people take it so extreme that I just want to say like, F you, lady. Like I'm working really hard to give you perfect brows. If you had just used some people skills and be nice to me, I would jump over the moon to help you. But the fact that you're being so rude about it does not make me want to help you. Like, why don't people understand? Like, like how to use people skills to get what you want. Like if they were friends, we have clients that are nice where I'm like, I would get you in tomorrow if you asked me. I would move clients around for you if you were
Oh
just nice about it. But
yeah.
I don't get why people think so backwards. I'm like, gosh, like think a little more strategic and you might get what you want.
People are entitled.
Yeah.
And they
Oh, it
expect
drives me
things.
crazy.
And
If they only knew, like sometimes when people are difficult or whatever, I actually push them out longer.
yeah.
I'm like, they're like, can I get in sooner? I'm like, actually, I don't like you. So I just put them out further just to be kind of a B word. I'm like,
Oh my God. Don't piss off your brow lady, guys. Don't piss
no,
them off. Like you don't want to piss off
do
the person
it.
holding a blade on top of her head.
Yeah, I had a client once and she came in and she just wanted strokes. And I asked the question, I'm like, do you want it to look like a real eyebrow or do you want it to look like makeup? And she said eyebrow, but I could tell she wanted makeup and she only wanted strokes, no shading. Those clients. They're like, I just want strokes. I'm like, no, you freaking don't. So of course, and she was adamant about it. And I finally told her, and I wrote a note on her consent form that said, that I recommend shading and you're recommending going really natural. So if you need an extra touch up with shading, it's $150. And I had her initial that crap. Good tip, by the way. So she calls me a week later crying because it's just too natural and she wanted more of a makeup look. And in my brain, I'm like, I'm so glad I hand wrote it on the form and had you initial it. She's like, I just can't believe I invested all this and it doesn't even look like makeup. And so I literally sent her a screenshot of the consent form. And I called her and I was like, you know what? I'll call her Amy. That wasn't her name. I'll be like, Amy, like, honestly, I was like, everything you're feeling is so valid. And it's so true because this was our conversation. And I always start with everything you're feeling is valid. It's so people want to feel validated. Even if they call me and they're like, one stroke is off. I was like, what I say, I'm like, you know what? You're probably right. There's probably a stroke off. We'll make sure when you come in and we'll just take care of it. And then they're like, oh, she's hearing me. Oh, good. Okay. And then they get off the phone. If I'm like, oh, it's like, no, the symmetry. And if I try and justify things, that's when clients don't respond well. So I've found in a lot of difficult situations, my mindset, number one, is to help them feel validated and help make sure they know that I've heard them. That's number one. And after that, I educate a little bit too. And I'm like, okay, well, this is what we blah, 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 and if they say more concerns, whatever, and they keep going, I'm like, oh, yeah, absolutely. That's so, everything you said, you're probably right. I don't say you're right. I say you know what? You're probably right. We'll take a look when, oh,
it's so true.
We deal with it all the time. It could be perfect brows and we deal with it.
You have to stroke their ego a little bit and validate them and tell them what they want to hear. But that takes a lot of humility.
Big time. And you got to humble up real quick if you're going to do PMU, baby. I had a client today. They were the most perfect ombre brows. And at the front, she's like, it just looks a little light here. And in my brain, I'm like, no, the hell it doesn't. It does not look freaking light there. I stood staring at it for 3 hours. But you know what I did? I took my machine and I went boop. And I'm like, oh, look at it now. Even though it deposited no color. She's like, oh, it's perfect. I'm like, yeah, it is. It's perfect.
Yeah. Some clients don't understand the ombre. They don't understand that part is the hardest.
Like, what do you want, a square freaking front? No, you don't.
Yeah.
So they need to feel validated. That's it. And you know what? If I'm charging $1,000 for brows, I'll humble up and I'll add a little dot at the front of your brow if you want a little dot.
Oh yeah. Oh,
I will add a dot.
And you see, and I see a lot of situations where people will get really frustrated with clients because clients can suck sometimes.
Yeah.
They just want to take advantage of you, and they know that you're one person because you're not like a huge corporate company. You're one person, and that kind of pulls at you, and it makes people feel bad and bend over backwards a million times to try to please everyone. But there has to be a line eventually to draw, but you have to be smart about it, and you have to put your ego aside and do what's best for you and the client in that situation. But sometimes it's in your words. I mean,
can I tell you a story that just came over? And this might come across wrong, so I'll try and communicate it well, because I have a really big heart. And those of you that know me know, but it was a weird situation. Last year I had somebody call, and she had gone through cancer 4 years ago, and she called, and I hate even saying it, she totally guilt tripped me about it. and was trying to get free eyebrows. And I love gifting eyebrows when I have the opportunity, when it's my choice. But when she called and it like hardcore guilt tripped me about it. I can't afford it and this and that, and was like, oh yeah, it was, she's like, I can't afford expensive eyebrows and this and that. Like, I'm like, why don't you call a cheaper place, you know, in my brain? But there was an expectation that I would do her eyebrows for free because she went through cancer, which sucks, you know. But so many other of my clients have gone through cancer and they don't get free. So it was that was a tough situation for me. And I did end up discounting it like very slightly for her to like just help her feel like it helped, whatever. But I felt really uncomfortable, Tanya. Like, I'll never forget that. I don't know why, but guilt trips make me feel icky.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate when like we do really nice things for those clients that go through. We have our Touched by an Angel program where we do
Yes.
complimentary services for clients that have alopecia and cancer. But then, yeah, there are some clients that sometimes will really milk it. Like I had the same situation. I had a client like reschedule her touch up like so many times over the course of a year and never communicated to me why. She just did it. And then like finally I
Like you gifted her eyebrows and then she rescheduled? I don't get it.
I gifted her initial appointment and I scheduled her touch up, and then she rescheduled her touch up like so many more times that it had been a year.
Oh my gosh.
And then I finally had to
That's a bummer.
cancel it and reach out to her and explain. But before I had a chance to explain, she wrote me a long ass email and was like, yeah. So
yeah,
that's
it's
another
tough,
situation.
isn't it?
It's
Because
so
we
tough.
want to have a servant's heart. And it's just like sometimes finding that balance too can be really tough mentally.
It is.
And it's always so heavy on my heart too. Like I thought about that for like a week and I felt like such a bad person for even thinking those thoughts.
Yeah. And
I don't know.
You have to find the best, like I had to think about the best way to communicate to her, one, without sounding like an ass.
Yeah.
You know, and then
which is tough because we
so
feel like an ass.
yeah, and then like rereading and rewriting everything that I wrote, like, and just taking the emotion out of it and just trying to keep it as professional as possible, because I did explain to her, you know, I'm very sorry you're going through the situations that you're going through, but at the end of the day, I'm still operating a business here that relies heavily on time management and scheduling and booking things weeks in advance. And because if you cancel on me last minute, I'm losing out. And although, you know, we're trying to do something special for you here, I still have to run a business.
Yeah.
And I think she understood. And I said, you know what? I'll honor this last rescheduling, but if you do need to reschedule again, I'm going to have to charge you an annual touch-up price. And she got, initially she was upset that that was what was happening, because she was like, you don't understand me and you don't understand my life. And I'm like, I get it. But then
you don't understand mine either. Like have a little empathy.
Yeah. And then she just didn't have that empathy for me. And you know how hard it is for us to try to have that empathy for people that don't always
Especially when you gave such a special gift.
Yeah.
And your time and effort, that's, you know, it sucks.
It's
And maybe
hard.
she just felt like maybe a little bit like ashamed of it or something, or embarrassed too. And sometimes when you're embarrassed, you just kind of you stick with your original story because you want to save face.
Yeah, I think so.
It's so hard.
Yeah,
it is. But I think that's part of PMU. That's part of the service industry in general, in any industry.
Yeah. And like, so what does it take? Like, what does it take to step outside of our minds like that and like snap into the place where we have to be kind and professional? And like, you know, what does it take to calm your nerves in that moment and like not react?
Yeah. Well, I think that the first thing that happens is when something happens to us, we have thoughts, right? And sometimes those thoughts are really nasty. Most of the time they probably are. I'm probably just a little shit.
Immediately.
But you know what? I've found that those thoughts really aren't my fault. Like when I think those thoughts, I can't control those thoughts that are a knee-jerk reaction that come to my brain. But what I am responsible for and what I can control is what I do with those thoughts. So once those thoughts come up, I've learned how to manage them and almost talk to myself and go, okay, but like, say, for example, with that situation, I'd be like, oh, she's just like guilt tripping me to get free brows, whatever, you know. But then in my brain, I'm like, but, you know, maybe she really is hurting. Maybe, you know, I'm doing like benefit of the doubt. I'm trying to see it from their angle, whatever. And I'm talking to myself like, hey, like take a step back. Let's like get bird's eye view of the situation
Mm-hmm.
and try and get a little empathy going here, mix it in the pot and see what we come up with.
Yeah.
So I think it's just realizing those initial thoughts are valid. You know, I'm always like, okay, it's valid how I'm feeling. However, I need to manage my thoughts and manage the way that I go about this. So like you said, it's responding
Mm-hmm.
versus reacting, because reacting never goes good, especially when we're all fired up.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Those emotions it's like, I saw this exercise once. This teacher, she took a tube of toothpaste and then she like squeezed all the toothpaste out of the tube. And she said, see how easy it is when you're like saying something, spilled with emotions or saying something nasty to someone, like how easy it is to squeeze it out of the tube. Now, she had the students try to put the toothpaste back into the tube.
Oh, wow. That's a
Like,
really good one. I like that.
and of course, they can't get it back into the tube. But she said,
Yeah.
once you spew all of it out, you can't take it back.
Ooh, I'll bet those kids remember that forever.
Oh, yes. And I thought it was genius because it's so
Yeah.
true. Sometimes we get just fired up and we just start, screaming and yelling, reacting, saying whatever, like, our attitude comes first.
Mhm.
And yeah, we're not taking the time to process and like recognize our thoughts and becoming an observer of our thoughts versus like the driver.
You know what helps me too is and this is even with my marriage, not just clients, like communication in general. I never try and solve problems late at night
Mm.
because I'm tired and emotional, and I'm never going to make the same amazing decision as I would in the morning. So I make sure that the timing of responding to the situations is right and
Mm.
that it's not late. Because if I'm an emotional and tired person and I'm texting this client back at 10 at night, you think they're going to be emotional too at 10 at night when they're tired and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, I've been in situations where I get a text from a client or a situation late, you know, and then by morning time, I put it till the morning and then call them and they're actually better by the morning. They were
Yeah.
just having an emotional night. So I think timing is another very important factor. Like Ben and I try and always solve problems and everything 24/7. And Ben is the one in our marriage to go, you know what, Amanda, why don't we talk about this at 9 a.m. tomorrow and see what you really have to say when you're not tired and emotional? And then I get more mad. I'm like, no, I want to solve it right now. And he's like, nope. He's like, doors are closed until 9 a.m. Problem solving business hours are over right now. And that's been a really good tool, both with clients and in any relationship.
A really good tip because yeah, you're however you're feeling in the moment and like whatever you've downloaded from your day can
Mm-hmm.
really make the difference in how you respond to something like at 10 p.m. versus 9 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so true.
Crazy.
Man.
Let's talk about like abundance, you know, abundance versus scarcity when it comes to mindset. I think this is a big one
Oh,
because I think that the way that you attract abundance or scarcity in your life is all about
your
your
mindset.
decisions and
Mhm.
your mindset. And it creates it literally, your mindset brings things into, like, you can manifest anything with your mind.
Right.
It's so freaking nuts.
And I think what we're talking about comes down to having a positive outlook
Mm-hmm.
or a negative outlook. Because you, as an entrepreneur, we know we get dealt shit sandwiches. I mean, served shit sandwiches
On
all
the
day long,
daily, baby.
all day long.
We're shit sandwich experts, aren't we?
But you have to think about, yeah, how are you gonna take it? Are
Mm-hmm.
you gonna be positive or are you gonna let everything consume you and bring you down?
Mm-hmm.
And so the abundance side is obviously going to be the positive, the attitude that you go into it with. And scarcity is always going to be that attitude of not enough or being worried and being negative and, that aspect of it.
And I think a lot of that negative mindset is based in fear, rooted
It's
in
fear.
fear
It's rooted in fear. You're
or insecurity. And we just allow it to overtake our understanding that, like, literally you can create whatever you want, you know, in your business and your growth, whatever. You gotta control your brain. You just gotta.
because your brain is going to create those limiting beliefs that
Yep.
are intertwined with and fueled by fear, like you
Mhm.
said, and insecurities. Like, for an example, I have a good story about this. When I was transitioning from sharing a space with someone to getting my own space, and I was opening a new studio. And at the time, you know what, I had a pretty good following already on Instagram, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 followers, which was pretty good for someone that, I would only been doing it for about 6 months, microblading. And I thought my work was pretty good because I was, again, taking all the action I needed to improve with every client. And I felt like at the time my work was in the maybe $500 range for artists. So I wasn't like super newbie, but I wasn't like a master either. But when I opened my studio, I only had like 4 clients booked. I think we talked about this yesterday. But my mindset was that, I'm going to book more clients and I'm going to be fully booked and I'm going to do whatever it takes. And I'm not worried about what it's going to cost me.
Yeah.
Right. So I decided I was going to do a new studio promo, and I was going to get people in the door. I wanted to be fully booked. I wanted to undercharge and over deliver so that I could treat every client like with that A1 service and get more referrals. And I was charging $350, including touch up.
Oh, dang, girl.
Yeah. For any type of brows,
Wow.
And I mean, at the time I only knew how to do microblading and powder.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I, in that first month, I got lucky because I was doing my consistency and I started getting more clients in the door. And I got this girl that walked through the door. She was beautiful, like 21 years old, had perfect skin, green eyes, like beautifully done little eyeliner that she drew. And I totally I prayed to God. I was like, please, God, let me do my best work on her. Like, let me do my best work on her. I was already drooling over the pictures when I was taking pictures of her.
Oh, I love that.
So beautiful. And then when I finished her brows, I wanted to cry because I did so good. And I had been
my gosh,
practicing and like waiting for this moment. And I call this like my big break, because her pictures, like I took so many pictures of her and I posted and reposted and I got so many likes, and I used her picture to advertise.
Yeah.
And from that picture, like people started calling me and starting wanting to book, maybe like a week.
Oh my gosh.
I ran the ad. I was fully booked for the month at $350.
That's so crazy.
At 30 clients for the month. But you know
Wow.
what? When I was thinking about doing this promo and I was talking to my peers about it and I was talking to people about it who were like doing the same thing too, they were telling me, Danny, your work is so good. Like $350 is so cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you do that? And I'm like, well, why are you fully booked? Like, why wouldn't you? Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather have
more clients
than sit around and wait for someone to book at like $600 and not be fully booked. And at the time I felt like I still had room for growth. I always have room to grow. But the person trying to talk me out of it, was in that scarcity mindset. They were worried that someone was taking something from them and they weren't getting their money's worth.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, but I'm not going to look at it that way, because look, I want to be fully booked. And from those 30 clients, I got a ton of photos, marketing. I got so much better because I learned from every client, my time. I got faster with my procedure. And what's 30 times $350? $10,000.
It's crazy, dude.
You know what I mean? And because of that abundant mindset, all the abundance that I went into it, like I didn't have any fear going into it, because I'm like,
and it helped you with momentum.
It helped me with so much momentum. And you know what? That promo, people called me, and after I was fully booked for November, they were like, are you still going to run the promo for December? And I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's the holidays. I'm going to do it. Like, why not? I did that promo through December.
Oh my gosh.
Fully booked for another month because now it was starting to snowball.
Yeah.
And when I came out of that, I said, you know what? And then by January, I'm going to bring my price back to regular price. I'm not going to make any announcements. I just changed my price back when the promo was over. And I was fully booked from December, like once the end of December, I was fully booked for January. Once I changed my prices. And then I've been fully booked ever since.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
I love that momentum mindset.
Like, yeah.
That's amazing.
So, I mean, have you been in any situations where like fear and scarcity just wanted to get the most of you? We were just talking about like raising prices, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I I've always felt insecure about my work for whatever reason. And I always will. You know, some of us, I'm just not a natural artist. So I just work really hard at it. And I just always hope it's good. And it turns out amazing. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm good at it. You know, but it was tough at first. So I think I'll always have that like rooted in me, you know, but I started at $299 for my first 30 clients. And I think I increased my price quarterly by $75. And I think that I made the mistake for so many years. Like I'm kind of pissed at myself a little bit because I would be booked out 6 months in advance and I'd be so proud of it. And I would announce it online. I'd be like, I'm booked out 6 months. Like I'm awesome. You know, like I'm so in demand. I'm so great, so successful, you know? And the true thing is now I realize looking back, like what an idiot, because I lost out on so much business because I was too booked out. I was like, I either should have raised my prices a lot more back then or hired an employee or an assistant that could take on clients. Yeah. What the heck was I thinking? Looking back, I was like, golly, if I added up how much revenue I probably lost because of that, all because I was like, I'm booked out. Look at me. You know?
But we just wanted to be booked out. Like as a
that's
new artist,
it. We wanted security.
You want that.
You don't, you know, and I don't book out further than 60 days now. And I continue to raise my price. So if I'm still booked 60 days out, I'll just keep raising it and raising it. And, I'm hiring and expanding because I don't want to lose that business anymore. And I think that scarcity mindset, wanting to be secure and knowing I had 6 months of work overcame my growth mindset where I was like, man, you know, so I learned that one the hard way. So if you're booked out 6 months right now, you got to change something, dude. Raise your price or hire someone else and scale and grow and make more. And you capitalize off of the hard work you've put into your marketing and brand. You worked so hard to get booked up, but like make it even better for yourself. I know it's scary, but goodness gracious, I'm telling you, I made that mistake, been there, done that, and I wouldn't do it again. And then you have no life because you're booked out so stinking far.
Exactly. I mean, and like I've been fully booked for almost 2 or 3 years now. And at some point I had to make that decision too, because I was breaking my back.
You need a life.
Yeah. I was only taking like 1 or 2 days off a month because I was taking every single client I could. And then, you know, I had a student ask me, or an artist asked me, so when do you think is a good time to start raising your prices? And you made a good point. If you're fully booked out and if you're consistent with your skills and consistent with your business and you're creating your brand, then maybe it's time to scale. Maybe it's time you think about either raising your prices, like you said, or hiring somebody else. I started feeling this because my shoulder started hurting.
Yeah.
I went through some shoulder pain over the last couple of months. And I think it was a combination of like after having the baby too, and like, you know, holding a baby and then like working and I'm always
strain.
Strain and everything. And I started to feel like, man, like my health is deteriorating. And anytime that happens, I always have to like check in with myself. Like, what is this worth to you? You know? And I'm like, you know what? I need to hire more people. And I've built the brand. And I think people trust me enough now where they'll trust my artists too. And of course, I really like hand select these artists that have trained with me, or I feel like I can trust them and I can work well with them. But yeah, and then I recently raised my prices too, because I wanted to, I want the people who really want to book with me, they can still book with me. I'll still take clients. I've scaled back on clients a lot, but I also want to grow for my staff. So I want my staff to be able to book more clients. And it helps with the tiered pricing that, you know, people can book with any level of experience that they want. So
you know, my scarcity mindset with that too, when I hired and I offered the lower price, I'm like, oh, well, what if they don't want to book with me anymore? Like I had those scarcity thoughts again. Did you ever think that? Because I totally thought that. And of course it didn't work. It actually made it so that, yeah, a lot of people booked with the lower price, the lower tier with an employee because they felt like it was a deal. They're like, oh yeah, because they see my price and they're like, oh, I'd pay that. But then the people that really want me would probably pay even more than I charge now.
Yeah.
It's that's like when you're at McDonald's and there's the small, medium, large soda. It's a marketing ploy. They want you to buy the large because you think it's a good deal.
And that's how I felt recently too, because I started seeing all these bookings coming in from my staff, but my bookings slowed down. And I started to second guess myself. And I was like, am I charging too much? Like, should I have changed my prices? But then I looked around at all of my competition or everyone that's in my league. They're charging like 50% more than me.
Yeah.
And then we're in
Isn't that
Los
crazy?
Angeles. People in LA can charge that much, you know, but I still have that humble heart where I'm like, it's too much.
Yeah, right.
You know, I still want to help people, but I
Yeah.
still want to make money and I still want my staff to make money. But yeah, I was feeling really insecure, but then I started getting more bookings.
Yeah.
And all my staff, and I have to remember, you know what, my staff is working for me. If they get bookings, I'm getting bookings, right?
Right. It's such an emotional, I feel like it's an emotional dip and then high and then dip. And each time you break off and want to grow, you dip and then you go up again. And I'm like, man, I'm getting addicted to this dipping feeling because I know the high comes now. I'm like, what can we do next? You know? I love that uncomfortable feeling because I know that growth always follows. Like, oh man, it's pretty crazy.
It is, man. But like,
takes some guts.
It takes guts. It takes a lot of guts and trust.
Yeah. And just knowing that like, it's okay to take some risks.
Yeah. I think,
you know, if you get too comfortable, you're too content, like you're not going to grow, and that's fine if you're okay with that. But if you want to grow, you gotta take on a little bit of risk.
You have to get uncomfortable.
I
think that's what people don't like. Once you get too comfortable, the funny thing is my staff, they always tell me, what else are you cooking up today, Tanny? Like, as if your plate wasn't full enough. But when I get comfortable and I start to feel like I'm coasting, I'm like,
I hate coasting.
It's
a dangerous water.
No, like I need to get up and do something new. I need to do something different. Yeah. And you fall into a routine, like even with my Instagram, because I had been doing the same formula, and I talk about it in my Instagram marketing strategies course, the same 10 strategies that I've been using since I started. I'm still using it until Reels came out. And then I was like, you know what, my page is getting a little stale. And like, I'm doing the same thing, but like, I need to mix it up. I need to do something different. And I had to learn how to use, like, all these new features were coming out on Instagram. And I was like, uncomfortable. My first reel was so stupid. I didn't even know how to use the audio. I didn't even know how to put music to it. It was just like the background white noise and like me like combing through a brow, and like, you know, it was so dumb. And
you can like hear them breathing, like
heard me, like, you know, and I had to archive it because I was like, this is really embarrassing.
That's really funny.
You have to be uncomfortable and you have to like, you know, make those.
Gotta try.
You have to learn. You have to try.
And now they're so satisfying.
And now I'm all about making satisfying reels. Like I was just telling Amanda, like I'll make a reel and I'll like know it's good to post when I can sit there and watch it on loop for like 10 times. And I'm like, I'm so satisfied.
It's so true though. Oh my gosh, get that algorithm. Oh my God, that's funny.
But yeah, if you guys start to feel like, you know, if you're an artist or if you're whatever you're doing in your business and you start to feel like shit's getting easy for you, step it up. Like,
get uncomfortable again.
Get uncomfortable again. Like, take it to the next level. And because that's how you know. That's how you know that.
And it's such a healthy thing to continue to stretch your comfort zone. Like when we were brand new, our comfort zone was very small. My comfort zone now is humongous, and I continue to stretch it because it's so exciting. And you gain so much perspective.
Yeah.
And it's a blast. Like there's nothing cooler than continuing to gain more perspective and just growing yourself and working on things. It's such a healthy thing. It's addictive.
It's really addicting. Growth is addicting. Anytime you see progress with anything you're doing, and especially if you're wading new waters and then you start to get it and you catch momentum on it and you're like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like it's a really satisfying feeling. That's satisfying.
I think too, that if you're not going up, you're going down. There's no straight. It's like you're either getting better or getting like you're either growing your business or you're not growing. Like there's no even. It's like, it's one or the other, like those video games where it's like one.
And you notice that like you and I, our biggest competition is ourselves.
100 million billion %.
Like
I am fighting myself every day.
Yeah. And I'm in this constant battle with myself about, am I doing enough? And a lot of people tend to compare their growth with other people. Like it's easy to, you're looking at this artist and another artist and you're like, she's doing this. Oh my God, she's doing so good. And I'm not doing this. But you know what? Do you.
Yeah.
Do you and do the best you can do and focus on how you can do better than what you were doing yesterday. Like,
and be your biggest cheerleader too.
Yes.
You know, what I've learned is when I speak to myself, my brain believes it. So what am I going to tell my brain to make it believe today that'll help me later? I seriously think that all the time. I'm like, what can I tell myself? Like,
Mhm.
how can I build myself up? Because anything that we tell ourselves repetitively, you literally start to think it's true.
It's true. It's
Like if you
affirmation.
told yourself a fake story about yourself right now, but then you kept telling it over the years, you would eventually, your brain would believe that it was actually true, even if it's not. So I'm like, what am I
What'd you tell
going
yourself today, Amanda?
What did I tell I told myself, what did I say? Oh, well, okay. So I'm working right now on buying a commercial property in Scottsdale because I want to be a badass and own a building.
Wow.
And I've been rejected by 4 lenders, which to get a commercial loan with the SBA is like 40 hours of paperwork with a business plan and projections and all that. It's a buttload, like ton of work. And I've gone through that process 4 times in the last few months. And one of my clients, we were just under conversation. She has a real estate background and she referred me to somebody. And in my brain, I was like, oh, you know what? I already applied with 4 people. It was a horrible process, whatever. I'm not going to get it, whatever. And I was like, no, what am I telling myself? I want to buy a building. And if I have to go through 100 freaking lenders, I'm going to get it. I'm going to name it Amanda Palace. And it's going to be a kick-ass building and I'm going to own it and it's going to be awesome. So she was telling me, I was like, give me their number. And I literally called them after they left and set up an appointment with another lender. And I'm going to go through that process again. And I know if I turn over enough rocks, I'm going to own a freaking building in downtown Scottsdale. And it's going to be so cool and bougie and it's going to be a good long-term investment. And I'm going to remember years from now, back when I hustled hard to get it.
Oh my
And
God.
I'm excited. I'm excited that I got rejected because I learned so much through that process. I learned how to put together a business plan. I learned how to look at my business from a bird's eye view, from a bank's perspective, to run the numbers and really get my books tight. And I keep telling myself that I'm going to own it. And think about how many doors have opened and connections will result in me just continuing to tell myself that because it's so easy to get, but I hate getting rejected. Oh, every phone call from those banks, I'm like, oh, I know. What? Are you going to reject me? And then they fricking do. And I feel sick. And then I get all upset and then I eat chocolate at night. And so I know it's going to happen. And then we'll celebrate here when I get it. Cause it's going to happen. Cause that's what I'm telling myself.
And you're
And
gonna happen.
whatever
And
that is for you, if you want to freaking build, whatever your building is, you got to tell yourself you're going to get it and just find out creative ways to get there. Because if you don't think it, it's never going to happen. And no one else is going to do it for me.
yep. And it's interesting because the universe has its special way of working things out and working out the master plan for you, because as you're going through this process, maybe something out there is telling you you're not quite ready for that building yet, but you're not going to stop until you get ready, until you get that building. But the
Damn
thing is,
right.
when you put it out there, the universe is going to throw you all the challenges to see, does Amanda really want this building? If she wants this building, she's going to keep going. She's going to push past this one, push past this one, and they're going to throw you all the tests. And by the time you own that building, you're going to know exactly how to run that building, all the laws and all the things and all the fine print that it takes to finally get there. You know, it's really
It's
grooming
so
you,
true.
right?
I've run more numbers. And I'm picturing a freaking kick-ass grand opening
Oh, wow.
where all my best friends come in and we like celebrate and party.
I'm
Um,
there.
I'm like, it's going to be so cool. Like, I just know it's going to happen. It's just a matter of figuring it out. So get your building, guys. Like, figure out what your building is and shoot for it and be excited about it and expect roadblocks, but keep going anyway. Because even if you got halfway there, isn't that better than not going anywhere at all? What are you going to learn from that experience? You know, it's going to add to your tool belt. It's going to equip you. And I don't know. I'm excited. I love a story like that because I remember hearing like the owner of Spanx, you know, Sarah Blakely,
Oh,
or
yeah.
even Starbucks. They went through like 100 lenders before somebody accepted them. So I'm going to be Sarah Blakely is what I keep telling myself. I'm like, I'm going to be the next Starbucks.
Yeah.
No one's going to reject me and I'm going to get a loan and I'm going to get a freaking building.
Yeah, people don't hear about those stories. Like,
No, we need to hear all that. That's why I love this podcast. We're telling all the crap stories. So you're freaking inspired.
yeah, I mean, exactly. Like you guys don't, you don't realize what we go through on a daily basis, how much rejection we take and how many no's it takes before you can finally get a yes. Or when you're doing something, like things don't magically happen all the time.
No, and we talk and how healthy of a thing it is to go through that too. Sometimes we have such a victim mindset. We're like, oh my gosh, this happened. I'm like, yeah, but if you look from the other perspective, you are learning so much as a business owner. And this is a formula with people, with business that you could apply to any other thing in life. And you will have so much street smarts, so much perspective. I'm like, I am so grateful that we go through the crap we do, because I have developed a backbone.
It gives you
I
such a thick
can,
skin.
I'm really proud of that. And it really sucked, but look at what we're continuing to blossom into better and better business owners and better people and better servers. I think that's really special. So I don't ever want to have a victim mindset when we're thrown those opportunities, because I know it's a lesson for us.
And that's the trap that people fall into. They try something, it doesn't work, and they victimize themselves, or they make excuses for themselves, and no, I couldn't do this because of that, or I couldn't do this because of that, or no, this didn't work out. But it's like, how hard did you try?
Yeah.
Like, how focused were you on actually achieving that goal? Or were you just going to let all these things get in your way?
Well, and do you continue to let things get in your way in your life? Sometimes it's a pattern with multiple areas in your life. And I don't want that to ever be a pattern in my life. So I'm very conscious about, again, how I talk to myself, how I respond to situations, my mindset. I think that mindset was like the perfect topic. So I'm all fired up now. I'm like,
I think our viewers got a lot of really valuable information from this episode today.
So what was the biggest blade for you when it comes to mindset?
When it comes
Building
to
your business
mindset,
so far?
I mean, building my business. And, I've told you, I have this voice in my head that's constantly talking me out of everything. That's telling me I'm not good enough, or no, you shouldn't expand. Like, what if something happens, and what if you lose money, or what if like it doesn't work out? It's constantly, I think it's a battle. Like, it's a battle to silence that voice, and then, turn the volume on my cheerleader up a little bit more, because everyone has a little cheerleader in their head, and everyone has someone that's trying to talk them out of everything they're doing. So I think if you allow that voice, the negative voice, the scarcity voice, that scarcity mindset to convince you, and let you live in fear, and that has been my biggest blade, is silencing that voice and like believing in myself. And then I think because I've done it so many times, and then like you said, seeing the outcome of what happened when I believed in myself and actually went through the hardships and the struggles and kept taking jabs to the chin and getting back up and doing it again and again and again, and just being like, no, I'm going to do this. And the thing is that always recognizing the difference between I want versus I am. Want puts you in a space of always wanting that. And it also allows you to excuse yourself for not actually saying like you are going to do it. Because if you say you want, and you're like, okay, I want that, it can happen, or it won't happen. But
I do the same thing with if and when. I don't say if, I always say when.
Same. Always when, always will. And if you just sit with those, then you're going to go a lot further. So I think that has been my biggest blade, just silencing.
What about your biggest glory?
My biggest glory when it comes
to mindset?
I think I'm very proud of myself, and I celebrate when I can handle those difficult situations in a very professional and level-headed kind of way. And I think what has helped me through a lot of this was, you guys might not know this, but I took a 200-hour yoga teacher training to learn how to de-stress and do yoga. And that actually taught me a lot about being present and breathing through certain situations. So breathing will kind of slow your mind down and allow you to process your thoughts. And I think that would probably be my favorite moment of glory when it comes to mindset, because that whole experience was really transformative. And now, like, I've become such a more positive person. I've become so much more I've always been ambitious, but ambitious can have a negative connotation too, because when you're too ambitious, but then you're not actually doing what you say you're going to
No
be
follow
doing.
through.
No
Yeah.
follow through. So there was that. But now I'm proud to say that, like, yes, I'm ambitious and I get shit done, and I'm silencing that voice, and I'm processing my thoughts, and I have a healthy inner dialogue. I mean, they still fight, but
It keeps things entertaining,
keeps
doesn't
things
it?
interesting. But yeah, I think every time I get a difficult situation and I'm able to manage it and come through, I'm proud of myself for not like reacting. Yeah.
What are you growing through right now? What are you working on when it comes to your mindset today?
I think what I'm working on when it comes to mindset is just gratitude constantly, because we get really caught up in wanting more and doing more and like conquering the world, you and I. But all of that abundance has to be rooted in gratitude.
Totally.
And you have to be grateful for everything that you have, along with everything that you are calling into your life. And because that sets the tone, that sets the tone for your attitude. Gratitude is the attitude.
Yeah.
I think I'm constantly working on that, because that allows me to stay humble and never lose sight of like who I am and where my roots are. And like, no matter what accomplishments or achievements I have or milestones I reach, I'm always like grateful, to a higher, a power, that I'm able to do it. And I think I'm constantly working on remembering to be grateful and not just going and winning all the time.
Right.
So how about you? What would be your biggest blade with mindset?
Maybe just not believing in myself and my ability to grow as a business. I always hid behind a brand. If it was like fee brows or even beauty, I always loved being behind the curtain.
Mm,
And so I think my biggest blade was just never believing that I could do something. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I've always struggled with that. And I hate being the center of attention of anything. I like being the supporter that helps something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I'd probably say that was my biggest blade with mindset.
And then what about your favorite moment of glory with mindset?
Well, it's going to be when I get this building.
That's
So
right.
I would say my future building is my glory, because that is the next thing that is about to happen. So, and I'm proud of, even if, no, I'm not even saying when I get my building, that's going to be the coolest glory. And that's going to be a big glory on the podcast. I can't wait to share all about that.
Oh yeah, I'm excited. You're gonna get it. You're totally gonna get it.
Of course.
What are you working on with your mindset right now?
Working on being more intentional. I am very overwhelmed right now with moving and starting a second location and the academy and live courses all over the country, and starting a new podcast, being on social media, showing up, now on the AAM board. Like there's so many things going, training new employees, trying to scale. Like there's a lot, and we're remodeling our new house. Like there's so much going on right now that I think my mindset, I am just not present at all. I am flying by the seat of my pants. Like I just got to get with everything. So I would say that's what I'm working on right now, is just grounding again and getting my strategy down. Because this was a crazy month. So as soon as I have it together,
Do you remember
next month will be great.
when we did yoga at Griffith Park?
That was so fun. Yes.
I think you need some yoga in your life. I think we need to do some breathing exercises.
I'm going to drive out there. Yeah, it's been I was a little over my head this month because when we moved, I had to move my March and April clients into February, and I did a triple client month with 50 something new clients, plus touch-ups, plus annual touch-ups. It was psychotic. And then we moved, and now I just had to do all those touch-ups back in Seattle, and then things will kind of regulate a little bit.
Yeah.
So self-inflicted, but man, like moving across the country with a full-time calendar is a lot.
But you've been handling everything like so gracefully.
Oh, thank you. It's been really freaking, I feel like I've been so distant from everyone, not even on social media. And I feel that guilt, like, oh my gosh, I'm not showing up. I'm not posting enough. And then I feel worse. Then I don't post. But I feel like I'm on the other end now where I'm kind of coming back and I'm just pooped. So
But you know what? Good job, Amanda. I want
we're
to,
doing it.
you're doing it. We're doing it. And
We're buying the building.
You guys, thank you so much. That brings us to the end of our episode today on Mindset Matters. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to us. You can find the full length video on Sway Brow's YouTube or Eastside Microblading YouTube. And we're also going to be posting this on SoundCloud. You can find me at Sway Brows on Instagram or swaybrows.com. And Amanda, you can find Amanda
on Instagram at Amanda Brewer Official or eastsidemicroblading.com. So excited. What a fun episode.
This was super fun. So thank you guys so much for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Every episode is going to be dropping Sunday night. So we'll have new episodes for you every Sunday night because we thought it'd be a good night. You know, you're kind of like getting prepared for the new week and you want to get something to get you motivated and get your mind right.
Get your freaking mindset right.
All right. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you on the next one.